Good morning, student. For Architecture 113, today we go with Class 4. And Class 4 will cover Chapter 5, General Building Height and Area. If you read this chapter, and you can do the study section number 4 after that. So right now, I have 4 class already for Architecture 113. So you need to read each of them belong to the due date on the class schedule. Reading all of them and send me the assignment. One of the way you can send directly to me, that you just open the assignment on Canvas, and after that click on the submit your answer. And if I get that, I will reading and I will let you know. Okay, so now go with Chapter 5. Talk about the building height and the area. In this one, we have the key for you can study about that. They have many things you can learn from. The first one, they need you identify the address, and after that, maximum floor area from the building. Locate for the same or the different one. Type from the structure industrial. Remember last time we learned about the type from the building. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and each of them we have A and B. For example, 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, and residential is 5B. So we have many different type from the construction. And after that, the high area they cover on the section 504 and 506. After that, you learn from how much the basic allowable height for the building. We can increase or not, and we have the permit or not about that. And you need to learn about the structure. For some of them, for example, the tower, the spire, or the steeples. The roof structure, what happened with that calculation. And what is the mezzanine. Under which condition for the floor level we can consider for mezzanine. And after that, we learn how to treat with the mezzanine on the level, on the ceiling, or in the room from that one, how cover from that. On table 506.2, they provide for you the increase from allowable floor area. How much you can and what you need to do. How much they regard with type from the construction when you increase the area. And also you can learn from the minimum width from the public way. After that, you know how to consider between the open area. The base on the calculation maximum allowable floor area for each of the building before you decide the maximum area allowed. The maximum for combine the floor area, and after that the building determined. That's the key point. You can learn more about how to be made from the building group A, 4, B, F, M. To be unlimited floor area. Group A1 and A2. Many things you can learn more. That is a minimum width required for open space, or you can learn about group A3 occupancy. About occupancy, I will create one of the clip. For example, for you calculate for occupancy. And after that, after that, you need to know how to calculate for occupancy in one project, in any projects, in the business one or in the shopping center plus. So basically, on the keyword, we will learn about the height from the building, and after that, the area, how much you can change for that one, depend on the group. Okay, this is the address. Basically, if you create one building, you need to create the address, and the size from the address is have one. They let you know that the minimum of 4 inches for the height, with the minimum strokes with a half inches. That means the stroke between the height is half inches, and the height from the text is 4 inches. That's the one when you do the address. And everything on there you need to show when you apply for design on the city before approval. So this is one example, so you can see the building height and the area from the wall and the column. If you see from here to here, that's exterior wall, but you calculate between them. That means the inside one from here to here, and you have the walls and the column, or the column you need to figure out how many, and depend on the load right here. When you put it right there, you divide by 2 and you load it right here. So that's why each of them, they need to calculate for how high from that. And if you have the span like that, they need to have structure calculation for make sure you need to do something, the beam, the support for the beam, or the post under there. So that's why on of the structure inside here needs one licensed engineer to do for structure calculation, and they show exactly how much loads can come in, how can the load divide to the support like this, and how can they go down to the foundation or the footing. So all of them, they need to use calculation, and about calculation, that's in regard to the structure from the building. And section 503.1, they can tell you how much maximum allowable for the area, or which one you cannot exceed from that one. The building consider on the footprints from the building. Okay, so that's why they will let you know how much the floor can be for the area maximum. This is another example from the height of the building. Usually if you see some kind like this is the building, and you look at the floor, they say elevation is 100 feet. That means the maximum height from the building is 100 feet. And you look at in the top corner, you have finished crown 103, 104, and the clay plans, it's a 101.5 feet. In the building, a 100 feet elevation, but on the clay plan, they have 101.5. That means it's a little bit higher. And on the finished clay is a 104. That means more higher than that one. And you look at the lot line right here, you can see that some of them is 96, and some of them is higher than 100. And between them, this is the clay plan. The clay plan is the one they cover between the building line and the property line. So on this one, they share with you about that. On IBC, they have the base on the location from the floor under consider relative to the external ground level. For example, you have this is external, and after that you have this is external, and this is the building. So they take the clay plan between them. They have the value in there. Therefore, it's necessary to define some kind like the circumstance under the foot level to can consider for the story above the clay plane. So that's why they consider when the construction. If you have the building, they have very big building with they have unlimited height and area permit. Some building they use for industrial, and they require for the height is large, and they have unusual height. That means the height you cannot see like before regular one. They have some kind like they use sometime in the industry, and this why they have unlimited height and the area permit. In the area permit, they need to show the permit from the area, but the height from the building, they can do maximum and limit or unlimited. On the limit number from the building, the house from the industrial, they need extension height and the area for their operation. For example, they have some kind industry process inside here, and they need very high building, they can increase for that. But before they do everything like that, they need to look at the type from the construction with the limits from that one, and they figure out how high they can do, and they need to change the construction type, the construction time, for make sure that's qualified with the code. This is one example, so you can see that in general section 705 they require the borderline to be located between the building on the same side and regulate exterior wall and opening protection. Also, they have the roof cover requirement. These methods would be provide protection equivalent to the buildings on adjoining lots. For example, in the lots like this, we may have a separate building. So, for example, they have different one like this. So the one to design, they need to know that depend on many conditions. For example, exterior wall, the roof covering for all of them, and the type from construction for each of them. They require some kind like the covering from the roof, and after that they need to do from equivalent from this building to another building if they have many buildings in the same site. The areas in the PM, on the area in the limits, you can look at the section 503, 504, and 506, and you can see what regard with the area limit from area. So that's the one example for many student. Many building in the same lot. On next one, you can see the table 504.3. They show you different group 1 and the footing, the footnote, and they have type construction. If you look at the type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we have 2 different one for each of them. Type 1A, type 1B, same thing, 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B, and this is the group ones. After that, they tell you the building height in the feet. So if you look at the number right here, that's the height they calculate by the feet maximum. So for example, you have group A, B, E, F, M, S, U, and for the this is the one you need to know, like non-sprinkler or with the sprinkler system. And you look at type 1, they have unlimited. That means the height from the building. If you use on sprinkler or non-sprinkler for type 1A, you don't have the limit from the height. But if you use 1B, the limit from the height 160 feet, 180 feet, it depends you use sprinkler system or not sprinkler system. And follow like that, you can see if you change for the type from the construction, and the height from the building should be changed. And this one you should follow before you start to design. Same thing like that, we have many different groups from the building. So you can see H1, H2, H3, H4 right here, and after that I1, I2, I3, and I2, I1, 2.1.2, that's the condition, and I4 R. So if you use R, for example, non-sprinkler, and you use type 1A, unlimited the height, but you use the one for the sprinkler, this one not the sprinkler, but S13D for the footnote, and you can see type 1 you have unlimited also. And you look up at that, if you go to type 5B, for example, this is type 5B, and you use residential, and you need the height from the limits is 40 feet high, 60 feet high. It depends on non-sprinkler or the sprinkler. So basically, this table show you what kind from the group you use before you design, what kind from the system you use for sprinkler or non-sprinkler, and after that, different type from construction, and the limit from the height is over here. So on up here show you the limit from the height from that area on that building. And this one, they show you how allowable number from the story. Before, the table show you maximum height from the building, and this one they limits for how many story you can use. For example, you have group A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, B, and this is for non-sprinkler and sprinkler, something like this, and this is how many story you can use. For example, with group A1, and you use non-sprinkler, type A1 unlimited, that means you can do how many story, it depends on you. But if you use type 1B, you need limit on 5 story only if you use non-sprinkler. Now if you add sprinkler in that one, and you can see type 1A unlimited, type 1B you can increase 6 story. Okay, and if you use type 2A With non-sprinkler, you can do 3 only for non-sprinkler, and after that you can use for sprinkler with 4. And if you use type B, you have 2 story and 3 story for sprinkler. So basically this one, they let you know how many story you can design if you use different group, and after that you use different system inside, for example sprinkler and non-sprinkler system, and how many story will be changed. So if you look at group A5, you can see that the footnote say non-sprinkler and non-sprinkler. If you look at that unlimited, so that means if you plan to design for group A5 and after that you use either sprinkler or non-sprinkler, it's unlimited for how many story you want to use. That means you can use 100 story or more than that, depend on the area. So that's why it's not limited. That means you allowed to design. On this side you can see some part is not belong to the main house, it's outside, and how much allowable height for the one outside like this, for example tower, spire or other non-habitable roof structure, and you can see that they allow the height per table 503. So you open 503, you can know maximum for non-combustible or combustible. If you have combustible construction 20 feet maximum here, increase above allowable building height. For example, allowable building height, that means the building height, how much is it, and it is the slope one, so you check on the center and you can see that is maximum 20 feet from that point. And if you use non-combustible construction, they say unlimited height. That means the tower you can do how much, they don't care, but you need to follow that. It's a non-combustible construction type. Okay, few more example. If you do from the mezzanine area, that means something is between the ceiling and the floor. You create something between them. This is the floor plan and this is elevation. You can see that the mezzanine is in here. Mezzanine is in here. It's here, that means it's between the ceiling and the floor. And this one, usually they didn't have the full wall to cover up on the all of them, and they need to have the rail for make sure that the people use this space, they not they cannot be dropped on the floor. So the mezzanine, and the room for that they have for example this is one grade from the room for that's why, and they said that if you have the floor level, if the mezzanine is not considered a allowable number of story. That means when you design for mezzanine, you cannot say okay I can do many story. 2 for allowable for area purpose. So that's why it consider the allowable number for the stories. It's not allowed for 2 story on the mezzanine. And you remember on this one, they need count for the floor plan, for total floor plan from the building, they not count. But when you do some from a sprinkler system, you need to count for this area for make sure you can do the sprinkler system around here. So these few things you need to know about the mezzanine when you design. They does not contribute to the floor area for the maximum allowable area. That means on a allowable area for this building is not include the mezzanine. The second one does not contribute as an additional story. This one you cannot count as the additional story. They just count for something extra in your house. It's not count for the stories on there. So you cannot say okay I have the house 2 story. In this case you can say that I have the house with few compliant mezzanine. And it does not contribute to the floor area for the 5 area size determination. So it does, that means it counts for contribute for the floor area. For example, you need to calculate for how much area you need to submit for the sprinkler system, and you need to count for this area also. This is some could you look at this, it is some requirement for you can you do for the mezzanine. If you create some kind like the access one, you need minimum 2 to be fully. If you want to do some kind like the wall around from the mezzanine, and you need to create for 2 egress. So that's why it's based on the egress. They said that it need to be minimum of 2 mean of egress. That's mean the egress from that one to lower floor. This is one example from you can calculate for the occupancy. This is the formula how to do, and this is one example. It's hard to see, but if you open the book, you can see that's one, and you look at for reference. This is the buildings, and they share with you how you calculate for the Y for the fire line. It's usually minimum 20 feet if you have the building right here and the property line right this. It is the street, and the other one you need to create some Y for fire line. In the residential, the distance from here to here minimum 5 feet, and how long for that? It's minimum 20 feet Y for the business one. So that's why if you go over with 503.1.1, and you can see that's International Fire Code, they give you the example from fire land, and they need only provide to 150 feet of external wall, exterior wall. So that's the, for example, this one they calculate for minimum 20 feet wide for fire land. Remember why. And the land they can do this 150 feet. This is the building was unlimited area. They can do maximum they can, but minimum of 3 hour with 3 hour opening for protection right here. That's the wall. The wall you need that. And the setback, if you look at this, they need larger than or minimum 40 feet over there, and in front and in the back there's 60 feet for the setback. This is the street one. That's the public way for a yard from 60 feet. This 60 feet yard. The width verified on 507.3, 04, 05, 06, and 12. They give you the permit for the reduce for 40 feet until lower than. That's the you need to keep the percentage of 75% from perimeter from the building. And exterior wall you need to face with reduced open space. So have minimum for the fire resistance rate for 3 hours. That means the wall right here you need to do for minimum of 3 hours for fire rate system. So this one is the wall you need to minimum 3 hours, and the other one you can do the setback. Okay, this is one example. You can see one building they have multi-use, so that's why they need to do the fully sprinkler system. This is example from group A4, B, F, M, and S, occupancy. I have explained with you about occupancy later, and just right now you understand that the occupancy is the maximum people allowed to be in the building at that time. So with the building like this, 60 feet yard on both sides, and after that in the back one is 60 feet yard. This is the public way. They need to do 1 or 2 story with fully sprinkler system. 1 or 2 you need to do for full sprinkler system. That means they can allow you to design for this one combination. They have group A, group B, group F, group M, and group S, but they require for 1 or 2 story must be full sprinkler system. So if you plan to design some multiple like this, you need to know that you need to design for a sprinkler system. I just mentioned with you that the sprinkler system is very expensive, and you need to change the water usually every year, because that water is so special. If you on the ceiling one, and in case they can spray out, so that's why they need the system, and they need to change the water using for a special for sprinkler every year, and it's so expensive for that one. So that's why right now if you see some of sprinkler system in the building, you can know that it's on the top ceiling. They have the system on there, and it's so special and it's expensive. This one they use for any type from construction permit, type 5 for group A4. You look at this because they have group A4 in the multiple use right here, so they need to use type 5 for group A4, and they need to limit to 1 story for group A4 also. That's the condition. You need to know when you use the code book. Now on the second one, this is some section cut from the building. This is 1-story building, and you look at this, the building type for construction is 2, 3 or 4. You can select which one you like to design for. And after that, on of them, on design for this one, you can see on the top ceiling they use fully sprinkler system, surround and minimum 60 feet open space. That means you cannot open smaller than 60 feet for the sprinkler system over there with the crate like this. That's one example. So now if another one, if you look at the building section cut, you can see that's it. Group A H2. H stands for hazard, for the hazardous, and this one is easy to burn. So that's why at the corner they have some special wall for that one. If you look at the section cut from this building, this is just example for you can see that if you use the roof, different kind of the group one. The group 1 is changed, and you can use for the type from construction will be changed also. This one, for example, you see roof F, construction type 2B, and the limit for the height is 300 feet. They say unlimited area building. That means you can do how big is it, but the height from the building is limit. And after that, the wall, interior wall, you need 2-hour fire rate barrier. If you open the code 508.4 table, you can see that they have the limit 2 hours for the wall, interior wall, and the spanning from distance they have 500. And the outside here for exterior wall they use for 3 hours. Inside is 2, but outside is 3 hour fire rate exterior wall. So basically this one, it just lets you know that it depends on the group you use to design the group 1. When you use the design, it depends on the group 1 and the height from the building. You can design for the wall, interior and exterior with different rate for fire system and the rates from the wall. Another example, you can see this one, they have single building for the high limit in feet. This one, that very limit high, and they have few stories, separate building for allowable area, number of the stories, and the type from the construction from the firewall. That means when you have the building like this, you need to separate that. It depends on the area, depend on number from the story, and the type from the construction for the fire break wall. This one, for example, you see in the first floor they use full sprinkler system, type 1A construction. On the ceiling they need 3 hour horizontal assembly, and after that on the top one they can use roof B, M, R and S upper building on the top, but they need full system, just the first floor only. Okay, so and finally in this chapter, this a share with you about the height from the building and how much maximum story you can use it. You need to open the book, and after that use the table, and depend on the group you want to design, and depend on the height from the building. And the other one depend on the sprinkler system or not sprinkler system, and you figure out how many story allowable for that building, or how maximum height you can design for that building, and which one you need to use for full sprinkler system and which one is not. So on of this chapter, they focus to share with you about the building height and the area. Before you start to design any building, you should know about some regard condition before you draw. For example, you have the area so big and they use for multi-use. That means they have many different types from the group in design. For example, they have group B, group A, group F, group S, group H, something like that in the same area. And that's why you need to figure out which one you can use for the area, how maximum you can use, and after that the wall outside between them, what what type from the fire rate wall you need to use for that one. And same thing, if you have many story, you need to open the code book and you see how maximum story they can use and what story you need to use for full sprinkler system and which one you need to do for the fire rate wall, and after that how many hours for each of them. So basically on the code book they have information. Before you start to design, you figure out how much area you need, how much the height from the building or story before you start to design. So that's in the code. But if you want to design, you need to follow the codes to design. If not, the city they not approve for your permit. And if you do something not really correct, the people plan checker, for example I will check everything, follow the code one. So I use the code to correct for you, and you need to do you do repair or fix of that before you do resubmission. And after that, after resubmit, I will review one more time if everything is okay with the codes and I can approve for this one. That's in my second job right now in the city. I work like plan checker and I do everything. I focus on residential. If you have something you need to apply for building structure and you need to submit on city, and I am one of the people can check everything about the structure, about the codes, how much you use for the codes. If you do everything okay, I can approve for the first time. But I'm working there long, but I look like I never approve for any project for the first time submittal. Usually 2 times, 3 times. Some projects I can do 7 times for correction before approve for those projects. So depend. If some people design very good and some people know how to use the code in the structure and they have very good structure calculation, I can approve one project maybe 1 or 2 times, and a lot of them 3 times, 4 times, so on. So this is the chapter 5 for Architecture 113. I hope you enjoy the weekend. However, try to reading and do assignment. One more time, if you do assignment, you can submit directly on Canvas, assignment and submittal. Okay. Any question, you can email for me. And my office hour right now is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. I usually use the Canvas Pronto to chat or to communicate with the student at that time, maybe longer. For example, last night I can stay almost 11:45. So basically you can contact with me many ways: email, Canvas Pronto, or later I will figure out stream on the Pronto. You can use stream, you can use text message. For me, a lot of students use text message and I also like it. Stream in case if I want to share with you something, and later maybe I will invite you to conference Zoom, but I'm not sure what time. I will announce when I have that. Okay, thank you so much for watching this chapter, and hope you can submit your study section on time. Check the schedule and due date for assignment on Canvas assignment. Thank you so much. See you next time.